Today's topic is Rana Ayyub. Rana Ayyub is one of the journalists from India. Is Rana Ayyub, is she a pro-Islamist disguised as a journalist? Is she an apologist for extreme Islamist groups? Or is she just another clueless left-wing, anti-Modi, anti-BJP journalist engaged in covering only one side of the issue? Like, we have people like Sagarika Ghose or Barkha Dutt. I don't think they're pro-Islamists. I don't think they are any apologists for extreme Islamic groups. But certainly they hate BJP, they hate Modi. They only cover one side of the story, all right? They leave the other side of the story. So that's why they lost the credibility. That's why nobody trusts them. So is Rana Ayyub just like one of those guys? Or does she have a bigger agenda? That's the question. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. And I'm going to walk you through this thing. And then, I'm going to tell you what I feel about the whole thing. All right. First one is her anti-Modi stand. As you know, she's one of the biggest critics of Narendra Modi. She wrote a book on Gujarat incident. And, pretty much if you just go to her Twitter and if you look at her work, it's always like anti-Modi, anti-Modi, anti-BJP, right? So now, is it a problem? No, in my opinion, that's not a problem. That's all right. She has the right to do that. And to me, it's all right. People, I don't recommend it. It doesn't make sense to hate somebody so much and get distracted so much just because you have so much hatred for one guy or one party or one group. That's not what I would expect from a journalist. But anyway, there are people like, as I said, there are people like a Barkha Dutt or the Sagarika Ghose, and there's a whole bunch of people who absolutely hate BJP or RSS or Narendra Modi's politics. So that's what seems to drive everything they do. That's okay. That's all right. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not ideal, but that's okay. That's not the biggest red flag. Okay, now what about Kashmir issue? Now, when it comes to Kashmir, she seems to have some sympathy toward those Kashmiri youth, aka those who pelt stones, the stone pelters, who throw stones at Kashmiri police, Indian military, right? She seems to have some kind of sympathy towards them. Now, I'm okay with that. Surprisingly, I'm okay with that. There's nothing wrong. But here is where it gets into a problem area. Those stone pelting Kashmiri youth and their links with Pakistani sponsored groups and other hardcore militants operating in Kashmir who attack Kashmiri police, who attack Indian military. She's not outraged about it. How many tweets you have seen from her on that particular issue that we are facing or threat we are facing as a country? Have you seen her getting outraged over that? No. She's also very quick to point out if any mistakes done by Indian military. Okay, it doesn't even have to be a mistake. Let's say Indian military took a very tough action because the stone pelters were out of control and they were trying to stop them from carrying out some massive anti-terrorism operation in the valley. Then the military got tough, let's say, and then engaged in whatever it is. They threw some tear gas or maybe firing. She gets very upset. Now that is not good. Also, have you seen her talk about the Kashmiri Pandits? I don't remember, right? So when it comes to Kashmir, she's sympathetic towards stone pelters. Hardly any word on links between those stone pelters and pro-Pakistani groups. And then she's always tough on military, not the people who are really causing the problem, taking money and other arms and other supplies and help from Pakistan. And then no word on Pakistani Pandits. That doesn't sound right. Now, what about violence and physical threat from different fringe groups? You hear these people posting videos saying that I'm going to kill you because I don't like your opinion, right? Yeah, she's very tough on them because every time she hears somebody getting lynched or somebody getting attacked by right-wing Hindu groups, she cannot stop tweeting. She cannot stop tweeting because she gets very, very upset. Very good, because I'm with her, because that's not acceptable. Violence or threats are not acceptable. Okay, that's not acceptable in a decent society. But what happens when the roles are reversed? What happened when Islamic clerics issued fatwa to kill some right-wing journalist, like some guy from Z News? I think he works for a different channel now. I think Sadhana Purohit. There was a fatwa on him because he did a program. Did she come out and protest or show outrage? I don't remember it. Or what about the fatwas on, there was this Pakistani-based, but now he lives in Canada, Mr. Tariq Pata. When he was in India, he had his own show called Fataka Fatwa. There was some Muslim cleric openly threatened to cut his head off, behead him. Another Muslim cleric issued fatwa. Did you see Rana Ayyub losing her mind over that incident? Like, tweeting every day and, going after those people? I don't remember. So, in fact, there was a murder in Bangalore. A lady journalist by the name Gauri Lankesh. She was shot and killed by some people. Till today, we don't know who they are. Nobody was caught ever since. But right after that incident, literally within 24 hours, people like Rana and everybody pretty much assumed that she was killed by right-wing groups. And they made their conclusion, and then they started abusing right-wings and Hindu groups, and they basically started drawing links between those groups and Modi's government. That's how bad it got, right? Without any proof. So clearly she gets very outraged when there is a chance that the right-wing Hindu groups are involved in an incident. But when it comes to fatwas by Islamic clerics or Kashmiri militants or pro-Pakistani groups, she's very silent. That doesn't sound right either, right? You don't do that if you're just a left-wing. There must be some other motive. What is it, right? All right, now let's take one step further. Let's talk about international news. Like every day, you turn the TV on and then you see the news coming from all over the world, right? Good and bad. Unfortunately, people get killed in the hands of bad people. And it happens all over the world. It could be South America or Southeast Asia or Middle East, right? Kashmir, wherever it is, it happens, unfortunate reality. And if you're a decent human being, you would really care about that human loss. You would condemn it because, after all, they're human beings. No innocent person should be put to death. Nobody should suffer. We all have, right to live. Now let's see how does Rana Ayyub react to this international news, right? Now, based on what I've seen, if something happens in Palestine, she gets very upset. If something happens in the United States where, let's say, Trump issues some statement or Republicans say something nasty about Muslim immigrants, she gets very upset. She was very upset with what happened in Burma with Rohingya Muslims. She kept tweeting day after day after day. She just couldn't stop. In fact, you can go back and check it yourself, her Twitter feed, right? So she just wouldn't stop. Now, I am with her. I feel sorry for them too, because you know what? They are human beings at the end of the day. As I said, if you're a decent human being, you would care about them. Now, the question is, does she care about non-Muslims when the same thing happened? Well, here is the best example. Just a few days ago, the news came out that, in fact, Rohingya terrorists did massacre around 90 Hindus. There was a proof of it. Even Amnesty International gave the dates and the location. They know the exact dates in the village, right? Now, if Rana Ayyub was one of those decent human beings who really care about everybody, not just Muslims, don't you think she would have gone to the Twitter and shown the same amount of outrage? But where was it? I didn't see it. I didn't see it. If you go to her Twitter, all you see is she's again playing victim card. Oh, people called me, spreading fake news about me, this and that, and all the trolls. Again, she's trying to deflect the whole thing, divert the whole issue, and again putting the focus back on people that she doesn't like, which is again right-wing Hindu groups. So you guys, you see what I'm talking about here? So when it comes to Kashmir, she only talks about Kashmir Muslims. She doesn't care about Kashmir Pandits. When it comes to Rohingya Muslims, or Rohingya situation, she only talks about Rohingya Muslims. She doesn't even utter a word about Hindus massacred by Rohingya terrorists. When it comes to international thing, again, she only gets outraged when Muslims all over the world are at the receiving end, or whatever, something bad happens to them, she gets very outraged. But we don't see the same outrage when something bad happens to, let's say, Kashmiri Hindu guys, or Hindu guys in Rohingya, or Hindus in Pakistan. Have you seen her getting outraged? No, she doesn't do that. So what does it mean? So if you have to look at, now you're trying to decide, as I said at the beginning of this video, you're trying to figure out if she is just one of those clueless left-wing journalists, anti-Modi journalists, whose only agenda is to, target right-wing Hindu groups in India. Then that is one thing. But for me, based on these examples, based on these observations, she's one step higher than those people. It's not just about it. She's not even left-wing. She's not even a liberal. She's a pro-Islamist, a apologist for extreme Islamist groups. She won't say it in public, but her actions, her responses, her selective outrage, and her very intentional silence, all these things point to only one thing. That is, she is a pro-Islamist person pretending to be or acting like a journalist. So you guys, you see what I'm talking about here? So when it comes to Kashmir, she only talks about Kashmir Muslims. She doesn't care about Kashmir Pandits. When it comes to Rohingya Muslims, or Rohingya situation, she only talks about Rohingya Muslims. She doesn't even utter a word about Hindus massacred by Rohingya terrorists. When it comes to international thing, again, she only gets outraged when Muslims all over the world are at the receiving end, or whatever, something bad happens to them, she gets very outraged. But we don't see the same outrage when something bad happens to, let's say, Kashmiri Hindu guys, or Hindu guys in Rohingya, or Hindus in Pakistan. Have you seen her getting outraged? No, she doesn't do that. So what does it mean? So if you have to look at, now you're trying to decide, as I said at the beginning of this video, you're trying to figure out if she is just one of those clueless left-wing journalists, anti-Modi journalists, whose only agenda is to, target right-wing Hindu groups in India. Then that is one thing. But for me, based on these examples, based on these observations, she's one step higher than those people. It's not just about it. She's not even left-wing. She's not even a liberal. She's a pro-Islamist, a apologist for extreme Islamist groups. She won't say it in public, but her actions, her responses, her selective outrage, and her very intentional silence, all these things point to only one thing. That is, she is a pro-Islamist person pretending to be or acting like a journalist.